Good afternoon, I'm Milton Walker with the Midday News. A special welcome if you're watching on onespotmedia.com. A reminder as well that you can download our One Spot Media app in the Google Play Store or the App Store. That's the number 1 followed by the words Spot and Media. A trial lawyer at the International Criminal Court says Jamaica could find itself in breach of its international obligations if it proceeds with plans announced by Prime Minister Andrew Holness and the National Security Minister Robert Montego to amend laws so that certain offences attract automatic denial of bail. TVJ's O'Shane Masters has the details.
Alyssa Sims, who is also a former prosecutor, has concluded that Jamaica would also have to make amendments to its constitution for the automatic denial of bail in certain offences to legitimately take place. The controversy developed on Sunday after Mr. Holness and Mr. Montego advocated for laws to be amended so that offences related to murder and illegal firearms would result in a mandatory denial of bail. The parliamentary opposition, along with the human rights and legal communities, have criticized the move. They argue that changing the laws to restrict bail is not a real crime plan and also violates the Constitution. Ms. Sims, who was a prosecutor in Jamaica, points out that the country has obligations under 2 international treaties which relate to human rights and would have to give an account of its actions to the international community.
Taking it from the international perspective, Jamaica has ratified the Universal Declaration of Human Rights as well as the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. And both of those international instruments basically guarantee a person's right to the presumption of innocence. And the right to bail is tied to the presumptions of innocence. So looking at it internationally, Jamaica certainly would be in breach of its international obligations under those 2 particular instruments.
And a doubt has also been cast on whether the proposed changes will stand up to legal scrutiny. Ms. Sims argues that without constitutional changes, such a law is liable to be struck down.
Domestically, taking it from the Constitution, under the Constitution, the persons have a right to liberty, unless it is that the proposal would be to amend the constitutional rights to liberty and also to bail. I cannot see the government being successful in being able to enact such provisions and it being able to stand up to court scrutiny.
O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
The police have confirmed a story carried by our news centre yesterday that a teenager is in custody following the fatal stabbing of a woman on Muir Avenue in the vicinity of the Maypen Market in Clarendon. The deceased has been identified as 40-year-old Charmaine Graham, otherwise called Valda of Ballards River in Chapelton, Clarendon. About 1 o'clock in the afternoon, the 16-year-old boy reportedly attacked Miss Graham and tried to steal her mobile phone. She resisted and was stabbed several times. Miss Graham died at hospital. The teenager was handed over to the police by residents of Farm in Clarendon. President of the Maypen Vendors Association, Lorraine Green Mason, reacted to the incident.
I'm disheartened because somebody who's working for their honest bread, and this is how they have to go down. It is really, really sad. It's a sad situation. It's a sad day for Jamaica.
Mrs. Mason said she had reached out to the police to provide additional security in the market.
Up to Wednesday of last week, we sat in a meeting at the parish council with the mayor, the SSP and the group of persons from the police, and she gave her assurance that they would be addressing the situation. I had given even some suggestions and none of that has been forthcoming, and today, 7 days later, somebody is dead because of inadequate security in the market.
Education Minister Senator Ruel Reid is calling for parents to be positive role models for their children. He was speaking at the commissioning of a walk-through metal detector at the Edith Dalton James High School in Duane Park, St. Andrew this morning. He added that many of the violent incidents involving students are linked to what they see in their homes or communities. Mr. Reid stated that installing metal detectors at some schools will help to reduce the number of weapons being taken into schools.
This is an investment that we want to send a signal that we are in the business of safety and security in our school for the empowerment of our young people. We want Jamaica also to be a place of peace, safety, and tranquility.
He said more metal detectors are to be installed at other schools, including the Norman Manley High School, Brownstone High and Old Harbour High. He added that some of the schools have been using handheld metal detectors which have proven to be effective.
Annually, we would find about over 1,000 weapons annually by virtue of the searches carried out across our high schools. Well, knives, larger knives, short, long knives, some, little machete. Yeah, those are things that that students will take.
The installation of the metal detector at Edith Dalton follows the fatal stabbing of a student at the school last month. The Jamaica Civil Service Association, the JCSA, says it's putting together a file for submission to the police outlining its claims of union busting against Chief Executive Officer of the Firearm Licensing Authority, Shane Dalling. President of the JCSA, O'Neill Grant, told TVJ News this morning that the claims also allege a breach of the Memorandum of Understanding between the public sector unions and the government.
We are responding to the Minister in relation to his invitation for us to contact the police with our allegations. We would have received the same guidance from the Director of Public Prosecutions that we should tender a file to the police, and they will be properly advised by the police if criminal charges are to be pursued. So we are doing that and putting our files together for submission. We do have the information. It's just that it is not in one compendium, which is what we are doing now.
Last month, Mr. Grant demanded that Mr. Dalling resign or be removed from office, declaring the union had no confidence in him because of how he handled the industrial relation matters at the FLA. Despite the high rate of crime in St. James, Mayor of Montego Bay, Houma Davis, says business confidence in the parish is still high. Mayor Davis says very recently they opened a major health facility which puts Western Jamaica up front and centre in the world of health tourism. He made the comments while speaking recently at the opening of a new Ashley furniture store in the parish, the second of two in Jamaica.
The opening of this store will not only bring new clientele to the city, but will bring wealth to our people through the very attractive jobs they provide. The Honourable Prime Minister Andrew Williams last week asked for a new set of investors in order that our economy can grow. This new store is one such new investor that will help to drive that process.
The mayor says the council has also taken steps to regularise how things are done in the parish. He says they have started with the construction industry.
We recently had representatives of the corporation and other state agencies successfully participating in a training program for the new application management data automation system, that is the Amanda system, which is aimed at ensuring greater participation from state agencies in regulating the construction sector.
The mayor gave a commitment to potential businesses that the St. James Municipal Corporation stands ready to take the lead role in facilitating the investments. He appealed to those creating havoc in the parish to stop and let the parish grow. Opposition leader Dr. Peter Phillips is warning of the dangers of the growing practice of companies hiring workers on a contractual basis. He raised the issue at yesterday's Private Sector Organisation of Jamaica's President's Forum in New Kingston. Dr. Phillips said contract workers are being placed at a disadvantage.
For enterprises, and sometimes in fact generated a tendency to shift workers from full-time employment arrangements into so-called contract labor arrangements with a consequential reduction in the degree of protection for those workers, which is only to delay a demographic crisis and a social crisis as they age and as the population ages that the country will have to face later on.
Time now for a look at what's coming up in this evening's Health Report.
In the next edition of the Health Report, we look at abscesses.
But there are some times when, especially in young babies and young children, where their immune system are just immature. They are just not yet fully developed, and so they are susceptible. So therefore, we just have to treat them whenever these abscesses arise.
That's the Health Report this evening in Primetime News. And now for today's Healthy Living tip. Do not let your child share clothes, towels, washcloths, sheets, or anything else that may have touched the abscess. To help the abscess open up and drain, try applying a warm compress. You can make a compress by wetting a washcloth with warm, not hot water and placing it over the abscess for several minutes. Do this a few times a day. Always wash your hands well before and after touching the abscess.
In news overseas, North Korea broke a 2-month lull in weapons testing with a dramatic launch of its most advanced missile yet, an intercontinental ballistic missile it claims can reach the whole of the U.S. mainland. It was a dramatic show of force and technical capability from Pyongyang, which had not conducted any tests in September 15, raising suggestions that perhaps the rogue country was heeding warnings to halt its provocations and cease its weapons program. More from the CNN.
Is there a chance we go to war here with North Korea?
Oh, absolutely, there's a chance. I don't think it will happen immediately. I hope that it won't happen ever, but there's definitely a chance, and we have to be prepared for that. We have the greatest risk, I think, here is miscalculation, and that the idea that we've got two leaders who really don't understand each other, that gives me a lot of concern. And the fact that now one of those leaders is developing weapons that can potentially hit a large portion of the globe, and he's really looking for ways in which he can demonstrate his capabilities. That is going to be, I think, the biggest danger that we have here. And then plus, of course, any response that we make is going to have to be tempered with the realization that this could very quickly spiral out of control.
Now over to sports. With 4 days to go before the third running of the richest race in the English-speaking Caribbean, the Diamond Mile, with a purse money of 14.6 million Jamaican dollars. This afternoon, we take a look at two of the leading contenders, Chase the Great and Will in Charge. Patrick Anderson reports.
The 2017 season has seen the turnaround in form for two of the 2016 Classic campaigners, Chase the Great and Will in Charge. The Dwight Chen-trained Chase the Great, the Caribbean Sprint champion, who has won 4 races from 11 starts this season with stakes of $4.5 million, has won from 5 furlongs to 6.5 furlongs. Chase the Great comes to the Diamond Mile well prepared, having galloped 7 furlongs in a minute 28 2/5.
It's not a matter of if he will get the journey, because as a 3-year-old, he won the Guinness Trials, going 7 furlongs. He will get the mile, but the thing is if he will get it as effectively as some of these horses in the race.
He was beaten by Choo Choo Blue in the Gold Cup over 7 furlongs, but Chen is looking ahead at the major slice of the $14.6 million purse money.
Diamond Mile is going to be a very hard race to win, with the likes of Ashiza Manito, who has shown that she's probably the best horse in Jamaica right now. And my philosophy about her is that if you can't beat her 2 turns, I don't see us beating her 1 turn. I mean, you're going all guns drawn to try and win. But at the same time, you have to judge your opponents. And I think it's going to be a very tactical race.
The Robert Pearson conditioned Will in Charge is vastly improved. He has earned $3.2 million from 5 wins in 7 starts this season after his 3rd place finish in the Super Stakes behind Triple Crown winner Shiza Maneater and Big Daddy Cool. On Sunday morning, the colt galloped 5.5 furlongs in a minute 5 2/5, with the last 5 furlongs coming in 59 seconds even.
Good work. He worked very well. He needed a sharp work coming out of the Super Stick, so I'm very happy with the work.
Pearson is hopeful the pace will come right back to Will in Charge.
I like to be like in the first 5, about to pounce and make my way home from the 3. He's a profound miler. He has won 5 out of 6, so I think it suits me better, and I'm hoping to reverse the placings. He has won 3 times on him so far from 3 rides, so I mean I'm very happy. Philly, she's special, so I think she's my main danger going a mile. So I'll be keeping my eye on her.
Patrick Anderson reporting for TVJ Sports.
And TVJ Sports Network, TVJSN, will have live coverage of the post-position draw for the Diamond Mile starting at 2:30 this afternoon. And that's Midday News. I'm Milton Walker. Join us at 7 for primetime news on behalf of the news, sports and production teams. Good afternoon.